I guess, under most circumstances, I would say. Because, I mean, essentially what do you need to ask yourself if you start a business? It's like, what kind of roles are needed to build a great business in the business model you're in? And then you should ask yourself, what kind of personalities or personality structures are needed to fulfill these roles in an optimal way, at least as good as possible way. And I think there's very few well-rounded personalities that are able to fulfill all the roles needed. That would really amaze me. I mean, again, there might be some gifted individuals that can switch roles and like have multiple personalities in one body. That's great. But if you are not that type of person, it probably makes sense to ask yourself really honestly, okay, we need somebody that's outgoing, that does sales, we need some IT product person, we need some operations. So usually you have like a lot of roles that are key to run a business in a successful way. And I would say like the 3, 4, 5 main roles and the associated competencies and personality structures should be present in a founder team. And that's also why you, in most cases, need a co-founder. And that's because co-founding, you essentially say, okay, what speaks against co-founding? That the only reason why not to do it would be, okay, I have to share with somebody else. But in most cases, if you think about that, if you really need to fulfill all those roles in a very substantial way to grow the business to a substantial point, you're probably better off building a bigger company if you have several people on board that fulfill those roles, even if you share some of the equity initially, and that usually overcompensates or outweighs your initial loss in share. So I would usually say it definitely makes sense to get a co-founder on board. And the other thing that this implies is, if you look at what is, how do friendship circles usually look like? They're often very homogeneous because we like to hang around with people that are similar to ourselves. But what's the consequence of that? I mean, the consequence basically is there will be very few friends that would be complementary enough to fulfill other roles needed. Yeah? So that's something that probably a lot of people forget or not consider enough when putting together their founding team. They rather put together a team or try to put together a team of people that they like and that they get along with. And I think the more essential part is finding a team that has complementary competencies. That's what often people think about, but even more so, that is complementary in terms of personality structures needed to fulfill the different roles, like being outgoing, more introverted, like all these kind of opposite roles that you need. And often those have to be looked for beyond your friendship circles. Because that's like one big learning. The intensity of working together is a lot higher than the intensity of being in a relationship. So you spend a lot more time with somebody that you co-found a business with, usually, than the person you're having a relationship with. So and so that's why complementary roles to get along with that person long term, or complementary skill sets and personality structures, to my experience, are a lot more relevant to get along over a very long period of time, is more essential than having been friends at the beginning of this journey, basically. Yeah? Often friends are not friends after a few years of running a business together anymore. They hate each other exactly for that reason, because they expect each other to fulfill roles in a very good way that did not fit their personality structures. And that's when trouble starts. Yeah? So, cut story short, yes, you usually need a co-founder, and personality structures of that co-founder and their complementarity to certain roles they need to fill are at least as important than as the competencies that they have.